All right, good morning, everybody. It is that time yet again. Batten down the hatches, get yourself focused, and let's take a look at the Test 15 review. So, starting off here, one from lesson 23 and 59. Arrange these fractions in order from least to greatest, and they're going to give you a set of 4. The secret to success on this one, remember, always find half of the denominator and compare it to the numerator. Then you want to think about what's less than a half, what's equal to a half, what's greater than a half, or what actually equals a half. So find half of the denominator. Half of the denominator is 4, right? Is 6 more than 4, equal to 4, or less than 4? Well, hopefully you know that would be more than 4. So this one would be greater than a half, right? Take a look here yet again. 9/9. I don't even think we have to do anything there. We should know 9/9. Moving on to 1/4. Well, half of this denominator of 4 would be 2, right? Compare it to the numerator. That would be less than 1/2, right? And our last one, if we took a look, half of this 6 would be 3. So that would mean if we're comparing it to that numerator, that is exactly equal to a half, right? So in order from least to greatest, 1/4, 3/8, 6/8, and then 9/9. Here we have to go and name the shaded portion of the rectangle as a fraction, as a decimal, and as a percent. It's always easiest if you start off with the fraction. So I have 10 rows of 10, right? Make sure you go and count them correctly. I had somebody get it wrong just because they missed one of the blocks. So we're going to count 10, 20 for the next row, 30, 40, 50, and then 51, right? So I have 51 total shaded pieces, and I have 100 total. So as a fraction, that would be 51 hundredths. So now we got to write 51 hundredths as a decimal number. I don't have one whole thing shaded, so I have 0 in my 1 spot, right? And then the decimal. So I need to write 51 so it ends up in the hundredths. So I'm going to put 5 in the tenths place and then 1 in the hundredths, just like I was going to write 51 cents, because cents is the same as hundredths, right? And then lastly, to write it as a percent, remember, percent just means out of 100. So if your denominator is 100, to write it as a percent, you just need the numerator, 51%. If the fraction is 51 out of 100. Take a look here. A rectangular room is 8 yards long and 6 yards wide. What is the perimeter? To do perimeter, remember you have to add all sides. So this side is 6, this side is 8 yards. That means this side across is also 6, and this side down here is also 8. So 8 plus 6 is 14. I'm going to go over here and round it up to 20 now. Plus 8 more makes 28 yards if I add up all the sides, right? But what is the area? Remember, area, you do length times width. 8 times 6 is 48. And because it is an area problem, you want to make sure that you label it in square yards. There's a difference between plain yards and square yards for area. Here we have to draw a parallelogram that is not a rectangle. So I gave you a couple of hints here. A parallelogram is a quadrilateral with two pairs of parallel sides. That is not a rectangle, meaning it doesn't have right corners. So the easiest way to do this is to start off with a pair of parallel sides, but don't make them the same length because we don't want to line up and have right angles. Then it would just be a matter of playing connect the dots on the other two sides to make those sides parallel, right? Check out this guy coming at you from lesson 68. Use digits to write the decimal number 9 and 3/100. So and is where the decimal point is, right? I'm going to start off with 9. How do I write 9? We've been doing that since kindergarten or first grade, right? The decimal point means and. And then I need 3 in the hundredths spot. Remember, your decimals go tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So I better put 3 in the hundredth spot, but I also need to have a digit here in the tenth spot. I can't just leave one blank. So I better put in a 0 because 0 is the same as nothing. 9 and 3/100. Check out this one. Which digit in 136 and 27/100 is in the 10th place? So if I plugged it into my handy dandy chart here, I'd have 136 in the no-name group and 27/100. And they want to know which digit is in the 10th place. If you take a look at it here, it's pretty easy to see. That's the 2. Check out here. The length of segment MN from M over to N is 50 millimeters. The length of segment NO from N to O is 40 millimeters. And they want to know the length of the whole segment MO, only they want to know the length in centimeters. So you actually have a couple of different types of math to do. The first stop, I better go and add my 2 millimeter side. This is really 50 millimeters, and this is 40 millimeters. So 50 plus 40, that's going to give me 90 millimeters, won't it? But I just can't leave the answer as 90 millimeters. I have one more piece of math to do. And down here I gave you the hint, remember, to change millimeters into centimeters? Go and divide by 10. What is 90 divided by 10? Hopefully everybody now knows, hey, that would be 9, right? So it would be 9 centimeters if you're starting off with 90 millimeters. Check out this one coming at us from lesson 33. They're asking us to round 3,721 to the nearest hundreds. 7 is my digit in the hundreds place. 3 is in the thousands, so it's going to stay exactly like this. Look to the neighbor to the right. If he's 5 or more, I'm going to round the 7 up. If he's less than 5, I'm going to leave him alone. So my two choices for an answer would be 3,700 or 3,800. Looks to me like the neighbor to the right is less than 5, so I'm going to keep it as 3,700 if I'm rounding to the nearest hundred. Here I have to go and do some comparing. 3 and 5/10 compared to 3 and 500 thousandths. Remember, we're going to take a look at first the whole number side. Here I have 3. Here I have 3. Go and compare each step. Here's 5 tenths. Here's 5 tenths. Now I have nothing compared to 2 more zeros. Well, nothing is the same as 0. We keep saying over and over, right? So these two decimal numbers are equal. 9 minus 4 and 3/5 minus 3 and 2/5. Couple of hints here. Number one, do the work in parentheses first, but also don't try to work it all out mentally. Maybe you might be able to do this in your head. 4 and 3/5 minus 3 and 2/5. Doesn't look to me like I'm going to have to borrow anything, so we should be safe. I would say that would give us 1 and 1/5. But here's where the problem lays. Most people, if they try to do this portion mentally, will make a mistake. Take the extra 5 seconds and set it up on paper, because 9 minus 1 and 1/5. A lot of times people go and try to subtract this and they'll think, oh, it's 8 and 1/5. No, it is not. You're starting with nothing and trying to subtract 1/5. You can't do that. You have to go and borrow from the whole number, right? I'm going to bring one whole over into the fraction side, and I'm trying to subtract fifths. So I'm going to write this one whole that I borrowed as 5/5, right? So now I got 5/5 minus 1/5. Hey, that's 4/5. Not too tough so far. Over to the whole number side, it gets even easier. Now, 8 minus 1, that's 7. It is not difficult at all if you set it out on paper. Check out this one. We have $2.28 plus 93 cents plus 72 cents. The big trick on this one is to remember, if one number is written with a dollar sign and a decimal point, they all have to be written with a dollar sign and a decimal point. So I'm going to start off with $2.28, but 93 cents is not written with a decimal point. It's in cent form. If you were going to put in a decimal point, it would look like this, right? If I was going to write it in dollar form, 93 cents. Then I would go and have to set him up and line him up at the decimal point. Then I would take my 72 cents, right? Once I have them all lined up nice and neat at the decimal point, it's not too tough to add. 8 plus 3 plus 2, hey, that's 13. 1 plus 2 plus 9 plus 7, that sounds like 19 to me. Write down the 9, carry your 1. 1 plus 2 plus 0 plus 0, that's 3. Last step, don't forget the dollar sign and the decimal point. Here's one asking us to divide 891 by 40 and write the answer as a mixed number. Now, the big thing you got to remember, you're trying to divide by 40. I still see some people out there trying to treat this like a 4. No, it will not. You cannot divide 40 starting off into 8. You're going to have to start dividing it into 89, which means you'll have one quotient number there. You'll have one quotient number here, right? Then there might be a mixed number involved. So 40 divides into 89 2 times, just like 4 divides into 8 2 times, but this is 40. 40 times 2 is 80. go ahead and subtract 89 minus 80. That's going to give us 9, right? Bring down my next number, and I'm ready to divide all over again. 40 goes into 91 this time. 2 times again, multiplies back for 80, and it's going to subtract 411. But I'm not going to write R11 because they want the answer as a mixed number. The remainder, 11, is your numerator. Your divisor, 40, is your denominator, 22 and 11/40. Moving over to the fraction side right now, pretty easy. 8 minus 3 3/7. I cannot start with nothing and subtract 3/7. I have to go and borrow 1 whole, right? I'm going to bring it over to the fraction side, and I'm dealing in 7s. So if I want to write 1 whole as a fraction, I'm going to write it as 7/7. Now I can subtract 7/7 minus 3/7. That's going to give us 4/7, right? Over to the whole number side, 7 minus 3, that's going to give us 4. It's about that easy. And that is the end. You want to go slow, use scratch paper, double and triple check your answers. Nobody gets a special blue ribbon prize for being the first one done. Good luck.